Hello, and welcome to the Spicy Pod Sleep Stories. I am Michael, and tonight the city of glass holds more than shadows. A thief slips through hidden doors. A fallen angel hunts with fire in his wings. And between chase and desire, danger and temptation, a spark ignites that neither can resist. In a world of relics and judgment, only one truth remains. Some connections are unstoppable. The city of glass did not sleep. Its towers rose like frozen music, their mirrored walls catching fragments of moonlight and scattering them into the labyrinth of streets below. Hidden doors lined every alley, archways that shimmered, staircases that shifted, markets that whispered. It was a city of reflections, illusions, and secrets. And tonight, one secret in particular waited to be stolen. She moved like smoke through the shadows, each step noiseless upon the crystalline stone. To the world, she was nothing more than a thief. Quick hands, clever tongue, mercenary heart. But to those who knew her name, she was something far more dangerous. The one who could slip into places no other dared. The one who could steal relics marked by both magic and curse. The cathedral stood at the city's center, its spires cutting into the sky. Its windows were carved from enchanted crystal, panes humming with the low murmur of wards. Inside, beyond the gold-lined aisles and echoing halls, lay the relic she had come for. It was said to burn with the light of the heavens. It was said to be untouchable, and yet her gloved hand brushed it now, a breath of laughter ghosting past her lips, as if even the sacred were not beyond reach. The relic pulsed beneath her fingertips, a shard of divine fire caged in glass. It felt alive, as though it recognized her touch. A spark leapt up her arm and she gasped, biting it back before it could echo through the cathedral. Something stirred above. She froze, senses sharp as blades. It wasn't the sound of guards, nor the whisper of shifting stone. It was something heavier, older, and laced with power. A shadow unfurled across the stained glass light, stretching long wings against the cathedral's dome. The air thickened, laced with static, and the walls themselves seemed to breathe. He had come, the hunter, the angel. Not the kind painted in gilded books or sung of in hymns, but one who carried fire in his veins, judgment in his eyes, and chains in his hands. A fallen angel, sent from the other side to reclaim what she had stolen and to drag her soul with it if she did not surrender. Her lips curved into a smile. She had known this would happen, though perhaps not so soon. And perhaps, she admitted silently, not with someone who looked like that. His boots struck the floor like thunder, though he walked with measured calm, his gaze fixed on hers at once. No hesitation, no search, as if he had felt her before he even saw her. The relic beat like a heart between them, light flaring across the walls. She tucked it into her satchel with a flick of her wrist. "Sorry," she whispered, her voice carrying just enough mischief to sting. And then she ran. But even as her feet carried her toward the hidden doors of the cathedral, she knew this was not a chase she could win, nor one she wanted to end. She slipped through the cathedral's hidden passage, breath steady though her pulse raced. The city opened before her, narrow streets glimmering with mirrored stones, alleys folding back into themselves like a puzzle box. She knew this labyrinth as well as she knew her own hands, yet tonight, every shadow felt occupied, every corner hummed with presence. He was following, not with clumsy steps or the clatter of armored guards, but with a silence more dangerous than sound. Above her, a shiver of wings stirred the air, not the fragile flutter of doves or crows, but a vast sweep of power, the kind that made even the moon hesitate behind a passing cloud. She darted down another corridor, boots striking glass tiles slick with mist, but no matter how fast she moved, his presence stayed with her, constant, unshaken. At last she stopped running. A courtyard lay ahead, ringed with cracked statues and vines that curled like black veins across the walls. The fountain at its center spilled silver water, glittering like liquid light. Here, at least, there was space to breathe, to fight, or to negotiate. She turned, and he descended, his wings unfurled like storm clouds, each feather laced with threads of fire and shadow. He landed without sound, his figure cut sharp against the moon. His eyes found hers at once, dark, steady, and threaded with a glow that did not belong to this world. For a moment, neither moved. "You carry what is not yours," he said, voice deep, edged in command. The sound trembled through her chest like the echo of a bell. Her lips curved. "I could say the same. Those wings don't exactly look borrowed." His jaw tightened. "You cannot keep it." "Oh, I can keep many things," she murmured, tilting her head, fingers brushing the satchel at her side. "Secrets, promises, relics." A pause, her gaze sliding boldly over him. Even attention. His hand lifted, palm glowing with light. The air thickened, pressing her back a step before she could resist. Threads of celestial energy coiled in the space between them, invisible but undeniable, pulling her toward the wall of stone behind her. Her breath caught as her shoulders struck the cold surface. His power pinned her, not roughly, but firmly, as though he had drawn invisible chains tight around her. She could feel his strength in the air, in her skin, even in the racing of her own heart. He stepped closer, shadows and light flickering around him. The scent of storm lingered on his skin, sharp as ozone. "You will surrender it," he said quietly. She should have feared him. She should have begged or fought. Instead, her smile widened. "No," she whispered. And before he could tighten his grip, before he could speak another word, she leaned forward and pressed her mouth to his. It was meant to distract him, just a thief's trick, a fleeting kiss to break concentration. But instead, the world seemed to lurch, the courtyard trembling beneath their feet. His breath caught against hers, and for the first time since his descent, his power faltered. She pulled back, eyes glittering with triumph. Guess angels can fall twice. Then she slipped away into the labyrinth once more, leaving him motionless in the courtyard, wings still outstretched, lips burning from the taste of her defiance. The city turned restless in the hours before dawn. Glass streets shimmered with dew, reflecting lantern light and broken constellations, while hidden markets folded into silence behind doors that were never the same twice. For most, it was a time of quiet retreat, but for a thief and an angel, the night had only just begun. She leaned against the rooftop ledge of a crooked tavern, breathing in the thin mist that curled around the towers. The relic pulsed faintly in her satchel, its warmth radiating against her hip. Too dangerous to hold, too valuable to give up. She should have fled the city the moment she stole it, but something had kept her here, or perhaps someone. Her fingers brushed her lips, unbidden. The kiss still lingered there like fire she couldn't extinguish. She cursed softly and shook her head. It had been nothing but a trick, a distraction. So why had he kissed her back? The air shifted. She didn't hear him arrive. No footstep, no wing beat. Oh, only the faint ripple of energy that made the hairs on her arms rise. She turned sharply, and there he was, standing at the edge of the rooftop, shadows and moonlight tangled around him like a cloak. His gaze locked on hers, unwavering. "You play with things you don't understand," he said. She forced a smirk, though her pulse leapt. "Funny, I was about to say the same to you." In an instant, he was upon her, faster than thought, faster than breath. She found herself pressed against the stone ledge, his arm braced beside her head, his wings curving in a half circle around them both. His nearness was suffocating and intoxicating all at once. The storm in his eyes, the heat rolling from his body, the scent of night and rain clinging to him. She lifted her chin, refusing to flinch. "What's the matter, Angel? Afraid I'll steal more than relics?" His jaw tightened. "You tempt fate. Or maybe fate tempts you." Her words slid like silk, daring him closer. For a heartbeat, the air between them burned. She saw the flicker of conflict in his eyes, the soldier of judgment fighting against something older, wilder. His hand moved, but not to strike. Instead, he caught her wrist, lifting it just enough for the satchel to slip against her side. The relic's glow seeped through the fabric, casting their faces in pale fire. "It binds us," he said softly, almost to himself. She tilted her head, her lips curving. "Then I suppose you'll just have to keep chasing me." Before he could answer, she twisted, slipping out of his hold with a thief's grace. Her laughter trailed behind her as she darted across the rooftops, vanishing into the fog once more. But he did not give chase. Not this time. He remained on the rooftop, wings folding slowly, lips parting as though to taste the ghost of her kiss again. And for the first time, the hunter wondered if he was the one being hunted. The city's hidden doors had always been her allies. A whispered word, a careful step, and the walls would fold, revealing staircases or tunnels no map could hold. Tonight, though, the labyrinth betrayed her. She ducked into a narrow passage between mirrored towers, fingers brushing across the wall's cold surface in search of the next opening. The relic's pulse grew heavier in her satchel, each throb echoing against her ribs. She whispered the charm to unseal the way, yet nothing stirred. The wall stayed shut. A chill laced the air. She turned, slowly, already knowing what she would see. He was there, filling the mouth of the passage, wings brushing either wall. His eyes burned faintly, not with anger, but something darker, more intent. The narrow space offered no escape, no vanishing door, no open street. Her breath steadied. "I was beginning to think you'd lost me." He advanced without a word, each step deliberate, predatory. The passage seemed to shrink with him, shadows clinging closer. She backed away until her spine struck glass, the wall humming faintly under her palms. "Why do you run?" His voice was low, threaded with storm. "If you believed yourself untouchable, you would face me." She laughed softly, though it came out more breath than sound. "Running is what keeps me untouchable." In a blink, he closed the distance. His power surged, celestial energy crackling across the walls, weaving into invisible bonds that pinned her arms above her head. She gasped as her wrists locked against the glass, the pressure firm but not cruel. He stood before her now, so close the air itself seemed to ignite. His wings arched, cocooning them in shadow and light, shutting the world away. "You can't keep it," he murmured, gaze drop into the satchel pressed between them. "Every moment you hold it, it takes more from you." Her lips curved. "And yet, you haven't taken it back." His jaw tightened. For an instant he looked as though he would, hand lifting, fingers brushing dangerously close to her hip, but his touch faltered, caught by something he couldn't name. She tilted her head, her voice soft, teasing. "You want to, don't you?" Silence stretched between them, hotter than fire. His breath grazed her cheek, his chest brushing hers with every inhale. The relic flared suddenly, its light cutting between them, making the glass behind her vibrate. She seized the distraction, twisting her body, just enough to slip out from under his hold. The bonds snapped like threads, scattering sparks across the walls. By the time he turned, she was already sprinting into the fog. His fists clenched at his sides, wings shuddering with restrained fury, or perhaps something else. The scent of her lingered in the air, tangled with the taste of temptation he could no longer deny. And though she was gone again, he knew he would find her, because the city was not big enough to contain what burned between them. The night stretched long, restless, alive with their pursuit. She darted across rooftops slick with rain, slipped through market stalls still warm from the day, vanished into doorways that opened only for her, and always, always, he was there, not close enough to catch her, not far enough to lose her. At first, the game had been survival, but now, each near collision carried a new kind of tension, breathless, electric, almost playful. She turned into a glass atrium strung with lanterns, the relic's glow humming like a heartbeat against her hip. She should have kept running. Instead, she lingered. He stepped from the shadows moments later, wings brushing the air, gaze fixed on her with that same unnerving calm. "You could end this," he said softly. She smirked, circling the fountain at the atrium's center. "And miss all this fun? Not a chance." His eyes followed her every move. "Fun is not the word I'd use. What would you call it then?" Her hand brushed the fountain's edge, water shimmering against her fingers. Hunting? Temptation? Or something else entirely? He didn't answer, but the tightness in his jaw told her enough. When she stepped closer, the air thickened, his power stirring as though it had a will of its own. He caught her wrist again, but not with the cold efficiency of duty. His grip lingered, warm, alive, far too human. "You push too far," he said quietly, and yet she leaned in, lips close enough for him to feel the brush of her words. "You never let go." For a heartbeat, silence consumed the atrium, broken only by the sound of their breathing. The relic pulsed, casting them in shifting light. Two shadows locked in a dance neither wanted to end, and then she laughed, sharp and sudden, twisting free with practiced ease. She vanished through a hidden stairwell, her voice echoing back, "Catch me, angel, if you can." He didn't follow immediately. His hand lingered where her skin had been, burning with the ghost of her pulse. For the first time in centuries, he realized the chase was no longer a mission. It was a need. The city's glass towers bent moonlight into endless patterns, but the reflections offered no escape. She had run until her lungs ached, stolen paths through hidden doors until her head spun, and still he was there, not always visible, not always near, but felt like a shadow stitched to her bones. That night she slipped into an abandoned clock tower at the city's edge, its broken gears frozen in silence. She leaned against the wall, the relic warm against her ribs, trying to slow her racing breath. For once, he did not arrive with thunder. He simply appeared, stepping from the shadows as though he had always been there. "You can't keep this up," he said quietly. "No threat, no command, just truth." She tilted her head, lips curving into the ghost of a smile. "Says the one who hasn't managed to catch me." His eyes flickered with something unreadable. "You don't understand what binds us." He lifted a hand, palm glowing faintly. The air thickened. Not to restrain her, not to pin her, but to show. A shimmer spread between them, threads of light and shadow twisting in the air, connecting her chest to his. Faint but undeniable, like a tether pulled taut. Her breath caught. "What is that?" "It's why I can't let you go." His voice was low, steady, but beneath it lived a storm. "Your soul is tangled with mine. When you touched the relic, it woke what was already there." She laughed softly, though it wavered at the edges. "So all this time, you've been chasing me because you had to?" "No," he said at once, and the force of it made her still. His eyes burned into hers, too raw, too honest. "Not because I had to." The relic pulsed between them, answering the truth. Neither of them wanted to speak. She took a slow step forward, the tether glowing brighter as the space closed. His wings shivered, brushing the clock tower's walls. For a moment, it felt inevitable. That closeness, that fire ready to ignite. Then she stopped, lips curving. "Dangerous thing, Angel. Being tied to a thief." And with a flicker of laughter, she vanished again, slipping through the broken gears into the fog. But this time, he didn't give chase, because the tether was proof, and proof was far more dangerous than temptation. Rain fell in silver sheets, drumming against the city of glass like 1,000 tiny hammers. She had slipped across rooftops, chasing freedom in shadows, unaware that he had followed every step. Silent, unwavering, wings brushing the storm-tossed air. The wind whipped her hair into her eyes, stinging, sharp. She blinked through it, realizing too late that she had led herself into a trap. A stretch of rooftop cracked beneath her boots, narrowing the path, the fog masking her options. He stepped from the mist, powerful and sure, cutting off the only escape. His wings spread like storm clouds, wrapping around the edges of the roof, closing the world to just them. "You can't keep running," he said, voice low, mingling with the roar of rain. "I don't want to stop running," she shot back, defiance lacing her words. But her chest heaved, and the pulse of the relic against her ribs made her heart pound faster. He moved closer, wings folding inward slightly, eyes dark with storm and fire. The space between them crackled, energy tangling like lightning across the wet stone. He pinned her gently against the rooftop ledge, celestial power pressing at her shoulders. Her breath hitched, caught in the taut line of tension between them. "Why are you like this?" he murmured, voice rough with something he could not name. She tilted her chin, close enough for his breath to brush her lips. "Like what?" "Dangerous," he said, almost painfully, "defiant, unreachable." And yet, before he could finish, she closed the distance, pressing her mouth to his. Not to escape this time, not as a trick, but to see him falter, to see what he would do. He did not falter. Instead, his hands gripped her sides, lifting just enough to pull her flush against him. The rain soaked them both, but the heat between them burned through it, a living, consuming thing. Energy danced along his wings, around her, and even the relics' glow seemed to pulse in rhythm with their breaths. Her lips parted, and she felt the weight of him, the fall of an angel caught in the pull of something mortal, something forbidden. The world around them disappeared. Only rain, only the heat of touch, only the tether that refused to break. When they finally drew apart, panting, soaked, and trembling, neither dared speak. Their eyes held the confession neither would voice aloud. For the first time, she realized the chase was no longer a game. It was something far more dangerous, something far more alive, and neither of them could escape it. The city had grown quiet, but not peaceful. Even in the fog-drenched streets, whispers threaded through the glass towers, echoes of distant judgment and secrets only angels could hear. She moved cautiously, relic secured, senses stretched taut. The tether still hummed faintly between them, a reminder that he was never far, that their connection was more than chance or choice. And he was there, always there, watching, patient, yet burning with the storm of his own restraint. But tonight, there was something new, a ripple in the air, subtle and electric, like the faint hum of a bell no one else could hear. He stiffened at it, wings twitching, eyes narrowing. "They're speaking of you," he muttered, voice tight. "The council, the others, they know you've escaped their reach too many times." She paused, heart tightening. "The others? You mean your side?" "Yes." His tone was clipped, sharp. He stepped closer, lowering his wings so they brushed hers. "They won't wait forever, and neither can I." She studied him, noting the strain in his posture, the restraint in his grip, the weight behind his eyes. For the first time, she saw more than the hunter. She saw the angel caught between duty and desire, bound by rules he was beginning to question. Then, "Why haven't you stopped me yet?" Her voice was soft, teasing, but the question hung heavy. He swallowed, hand brushing a strand of hair from her face. Because letting you go is more dangerous than stopping you. Her pulse quickened, the relic pulsed with her heartbeat, thrumming in tune with the tether. She realized with a start that the danger wasn't just the council, the relic, or even him. It was the tension between them, the charge that neither could deny, the fire that ignited every time they met. She tilted her head, lips brushing his ear. Dangerous, huh? Yes. His voice was low, vibrating through her. You are dangerous, more than you know. Her laugh was soft, but it faded as the shadows shifted around them. From the edges of the mist, figures emerged, angelic forms, their presence sharp, cold, unyielding. They moved toward them, silent but unmistakably hostile. He tensed beside her, wings spreading in warning. We need to move. She nodded, satchel clutched tight, and together they vanished into the hidden corridors of the city. But as they slipped through the shifting doors, she couldn't ignore the truth any longer. She didn't want to run. Not from him. Not even from the others. The city had grown colder, the fog curling through the streets like whispered warnings. She moved quickly, but not recklessly, through the labyrinth of hidden doors and mirrored alleys. Every shadow seemed alive, every reflection a potential threat or a promise. He was with her, not on her, not chasing this time. His presence was a constant weight at her side, wings folding and unfolding, ready to protect or strike. The tether hummed faintly, pulsing with an energy. She could feel in her chest, in her ribs, in her very blood. They reached the edge of the city, where the glass towers gave way to open rooftops. Below, the streets stretched empty, quiet and dangerous. She paused, gaze dropping to the relic in her satchel. It was the prize, the burden, and the temptation all at once. And now, with him standing close, closer than anyone had ever been, she realized that taking it further would put both of them at risk. He noticed her hesitation. You can end this, he said, voice low, almost gentle. You can give it back. Give yourself back. Her fingers clenched around the satchel strap. She had never considered surrender. Freedom had always been her goal. But now, staring at him, feeling the tether thrumming between them, she questioned everything she thought she knew. Or, she whispered, turning to face him fully, I could keep running. He shook his head slowly, wings curling protectively, eyes softening with something dangerous, something tender. And risk losing yourself completely? She swallowed. The truth of it struck her harder than any chase, any stolen relic. She had been running not just from judgment, but from connection, from someone who could see past every trick, every lie, every escape. From him. For the first time, She considered a choice not born of instinct but of trust. And in the silence that stretched between them, heavy with rain, wind, and the pulse of celestial energy, she made it. She set the satchel down carefully. "I don't want to lose you either," she admitted, voice trembling just enough to betray the risk in her heart. His wings shifted, folding around them both, shielding, embracing, tethering them tighter than any bond could. He reached for her, not to bind, not to command, but to hold. And when their fingers touched, the relic pulsed once more, as if affirming what neither of them dared to speak aloud. The city below was vast, full of dangers and choices, but for this moment, they were a single heartbeat, tethered not by duty, not by power, but by the fragile, exhilarating spark of trust and desire. And for once, she didn't want to run. The city trembled under the weight of judgment from high above. The glass towers fractured in shards of reflected light, echoing the turmoil in the sky. The council had arrived, silent, relentless, their presence a pressure that could bend even the strongest will. He stood beside her, wings spread, eyes burning with defiance. For centuries, he had obeyed their commands without question, delivered judgment without hesitation. But tonight, every law, every decree, every rule shattered like brittle glass. "They cannot decide your fate," he murmured, voice low, tense with restrained power. "Not anymore. Not while I'm here." She studied him, breath catching in the storm that whipped around them. He was more than hunter, more than fallen angel. He was fire and resolve, wings a shield, eyes a promise. "They will," she began, but he silenced her with a look. "They'll threaten, they'll punish, but I choose you, not duty, not judgment. You." The word struck her like lightning, bright, consuming, impossible. She had always known she could manipulate, charm, escape, but never had she been chosen in defiance of heaven itself. The council descended, their forms glowing faintly, coldly, judgment etched into every line. But he stepped forward, wings flaring, energy coiling like living flame around him. A single motion in the path between them and the council was a storm of light and shadow, unbreakable, unyielding. "Step back," he commanded. His voice carried the weight of authority, defiance, and something dangerously tender all at once. "You will not harm her." They hesitated, a ripple of uncertainty passing through their ranks. The tether that had bound them, her pulse against his, the relic's hum, the undeniable spark between them, was now a chain that no command could sever. She reached for him instinctively, hands finding his chest beneath the soaked fabric, feeling the fire that radiated from his very being. "You're risking everything for me," she whispered. His lips brushed her temple. "Not for you, for us." And then the city shook again, shards of glass cascading like rain, thunder echoing from nowhere and everywhere. He drew her closer, wings folding protectively around them, heart beating in rhythm with hers. In that moment, the fallen angel was no longer the hunter, no longer the servant of judgment. He was simply the one who had chosen her, and with that choice came the fall. Wings of silver and shadow began to unravel, the energy that had defined him shifting, transforming. Heaven had taken its claim, and he had refused. He was theirs no longer. He was hers. She clung to him as the storm raged around them, tethered by more than fate, by trust, by fire, and by the spark that neither law nor sky could extinguish. And for the first time, neither of them feared the fall. The storm had not abated. Rain swept across the shattered city like liquid silver, wind whipping through broken towers and jagged rooftops. But above it all, they stood together, bound not by duty, not by judgment, but by choice. He held her close, wings partially unfurled, feathers still crackling with residual celestial energy. Every thread of light and shadow around him seemed to pulse with the same rhythm as the relic she carried, as though the world itself recognized the bond between them. She looked up at him, hair plastered to her face, eyes bright with defiance and something deeper. "We've survived worse," she said softly. "But this is different." He swallowed, voice rough with tension and heat. "Different doesn't matter, only this." His hands framed her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks with deliberate care. The storm around them seemed to bend closer, drawing them into a bubble of silver rain and electric air. And then he kissed her. Not a fleeting distraction, not a calculated trick, but a kiss that burned through the remnants of fear and caution, igniting everything left unspoken between them. Her fingers tangled in his soaked hair, pulling him closer, drawing out a growl that rumbled through his chest. The relic pulsed fiercely, its light casting them in molten silver. Her heart raced, matching the cadence of his, every breath and heartbeat intertwining. Wings brushed, rain splashed, and yet in that chaos, there was stillness, an undeniable tether of heat, fire, and surrender. She pulled back slightly, just enough to look into his storm-dark eyes. "You're unstoppable," she whispered. He smiled faintly, a shadowed, wry curve that held both amusement and longing. Not alone. The city could crumble, the council could come, and the heavens could rage. But in that moment, tethered by fire, rain, and stolen breaths, they were theirs. And the kiss was no longer a spark. It was a flame that could not be extinguished. The city lay in quiet aftermath. Broken glass towers glimmered faintly in the dawn, shards catching the first light like scattered stars. The storm had passed, leaving only mist curling around rooftops and empty streets. She stood on the edge of the highest tower, relic cradled against her chest. The weight of it, both familiar and strange. For weeks it had been her treasure, her burden, her secret. But now, with him beside her, it seemed to pulse with a different purpose, one that belonged to both of them. He approached silently, wings folded, but still radiating heat and shadow. When he reached her, he did not speak immediately. Instead, he placed a hand lightly over hers, letting their fingers brush. The relic glowed softly beneath their touch, as if recognizing the unity they had forged. "It's never been just an object," he said at last, voice low and reverent. "It's a map. Not of the city, not of hidden doors, but of us." She tilted her head, studying him through strands of wet hair, heart fluttering with the familiar mix of thrill and trust. "Of us?" "Yes," he whispered. "Every escape, every chase, every spark, it led here. To this moment, to choice, to fire, to connection that no law, no counsel, no heaven or hell can sever." The relic's glow intensified, casting patterns of silver and gold across their faces. She felt it through her fingertips, the pulse of something alive, something meant to be shared, meant to bind them together. Slowly, almost reverently, she set the relic down on the stone ledge between them. He mirrored her movement, their hands lingering on the surface, letting the light and warmth of the object flow between them. A smile curved her lips, soft and genuine. "So, we're really doing this?" He bent slightly, eyes dark with unspoken storms and quiet surrender. "We're doing this," he confirmed, voice firm, tender, irrevocable. And then, without hesitation, they drew together. Not for distraction, not for defiance, not for chase, but for themselves. The kiss was a closing of old wounds, a promise of fire shared between two souls that had found their match in chaos and in stillness. The city of glass shimmered around them, silent witness to their union. The relic pulsed once more, then dimmed, content. It had served its purpose, not as a prize, but as a guide, leading them to the truth they had both feared and desired. Together, thief and fallen angel stepped away from the tower's edge, hands entwined, wings brushing lightly against the mist. The city might hold more secrets, more doors, more challenges, but whatever lay ahead, they would face it, tethered, ignited, unstoppable. And in that new dawn, the relic revealed its final truth. It had not been about what was taken, but about what was found. They had found each other. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's story. Good night and sweet dreams.